Joining us right now to discuss the grave concern is a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Allen West, former Congressman, a friend of the show, a friend of the program. Lieutenant Colonel, it's great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me with you, John, and all's well, I hope.
Yeah, all is well. Well, you know, this is a very serious issue here. We heard Fred Fleitz tell us that this information that was discussed yesterday in this hearing on Capitol Hill, there were specific examples given by Congressman Mike Rogers, a guy you know very well, of how Edward Snowden has specifically damaged U.S. troops by putting them in peril, making it harder for the military to find these IEDs based on some. How what is this? How do you feel about all this? I'm sure you're quite upset.
Well, of course I am, because when you look at our wounded warriors coming back from theater, the most devastating weapon that the enemy has employed are these improvised explosive devices. And the tactics, techniques, and procedures, we call those TTPs, that we use to be able to track these individuals and track the emplacement of them and track the bomb makers. If that information has been divulged so that it has fallen into the hands of the enemy so that they can better, hide their procedures and practices, it does put our men and women on the ground at risk. And that is the point. If Edward Snowden's original intent was to expose the NSA and their domestic spying practices, okay, I got it. I would prefer you to do it from the United States of America and be a stand-up type of person. But if he is overseas divulging information that is affecting our men and women on the ground, then he is no different from Private Bradley Manning, who is doing time now in Fort Leavenworth.
Yeah, we recently interviewed General Michael Hayden, a former director of the NSA, and said what Snowden has done, and this was actually before we had the chance to learn the specific information from this hearing from Fred, I should say. He said what Snowden has done is far more damaging to the U.S. than what Bradley Manning has done. Do you agree?
Well, if he is divulging information that is directly related to like I said, TTPs, with us being able to defend ourselves, our men and women, against these improvised explosive devices, absolutely. I think that Bradley Manning, in working with WikiLeaks, it was more of a higher level type of divulging of information that really did not talk about our tactical processes. But if that's the case here, I mean, this really does get to the point of, we still have operations ongoing in Afghanistan. We still have men and women that are traveling the roads in Afghanistan. And if now the enemy has learned just a little bit more about the practices we use, some of our intelligence gathering systems, maybe some of the times by which we gather intelligence or anything that minute or specific, that is truly treasonous, and that does endanger our men and women on the ground.
We've heard some of the usual suspects defend Edward Snowden. Some in the entertainment community say he's a hero. Now that we know this stuff, do you expect for some folks to start changing their minds?
Well, no. The people out there in the Hollywood political and entertainment elite, they will never come back and say anything different. They will, just really, try to remain silent and not bring attention to what they originally said in the onset. So, I think that the more Edward Snowden does, and of course residing in Russia, the more it really takes away this quote-unquote hero status that he was elevated to. And again, if you want to be a hero to the United States of America, you would be standing there in a hearing room, and you would be saying, my conscience does not allow me to keep this hidden. I really believe that I should, provide this information to the American people about what is going on as far as domestic spying. What you have now is not, a hero. I mean, what you have now is really nefarious in intent and in action.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Another thing I want to raise with you too, and it's tied to all this. We just were joined a few moments ago by Newsmax senior editor David Patton. We were talking about the irony that might be here. Vladimir Putin, of course, has harbored Edward Snowden. We know how this information has been used by terrorists, and we know that terrorists are quick to communicate on the internet. Do you think Putin might be regretting his decision as he nervously awaits the beginning of the Sochi Olympics?
Well, who knows the mind of Vladimir Putin? I think that maybe embarrassing the United States of America could have been, and President Obama, maybe that is higher than him being concerned about the domestic security. Maybe he believes he can take care of that on his own. But what is interesting enough is that here you have Edward Snowden in Russia divulging information about how we deal with terrorists have Vladimir Putin that will not share any intelligence information with us so that we can help him in dealing with the Chechnyan terrorism problem that he has there as we get ready to kick off the Winter Olympics. So that's an incredible irony, and it's really disconcerting when you think about it.
Yeah, the world holds their breath. None of us want to see a terror attack happen, but it's going to be a long 2 weeks for Russia. One more thing we want to talk about, Alan, is we also talked about the power grid. There was a report in the Wall Street Journal, and we followed up on this on Newsmax.com today.
Mm-hmm.
There may have been some dry runs, some folks are saying, on power grids and transmitters and things like that, part of our electric power grid out in California. Mm-hmm. We also heard the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard saying they have sleeper cells in the U.S. Are these connected in any way, shape, or form, do you think?
Well, of course they are, and anyone that says they're not are delusional. This goes right back to the fact that you had Hezbollah and Iran working with Mexican drug cartels with the assassination plot on the Israeli ambassador and Saudi ambassador. We have a porous, open border, and everyone coming across that border is not coming here to, wash our cars, cut our grass, or babysit our children. You have some bad actors coming across. But it's not just that dry run attack against a power plant. There are also a couple of instances in Virginia and also in the Boston area where water supply plants, people were trying to infiltrate there as well. So
now, while you were former Congressman, I should say, while you were still in Congress, you were there as both houses tried to work on hardening our power grid, hardening our infrastructure. That cybersecurity bill came up. Should this be a top priority at this point?
Well, it has to be a top priority because this is all part of asymmetrical warfare, and if we don't start to recognize it and put a focus on it, the enemy is always going to look for the gaps by which they can exploit you.
Yeah, and the question that came up, and I asked this question to Senator Joseph Lieberman back when this was being discussed, is whether or not it was going to take a catastrophic event on U.S. soil to kind of push Congress to move on this, and there hasn't been any action. Do you think that's still the case? I mean, are we going to be able to do anything unless we're basically forced to, because there didn't certainly seem to be the will in Congress to get this done the last time it came up?
Yeah. Sadly enough, it does seem that we have to be awakened by a cataclysmic event before we pay attention. We had the Boston Marathon bombing. Most people now, 9/11, you have these people going out saying it was America's fault, that it had nothing to do with Al-Qaeda and Saudi terrorists. So they're going to continue to press the attack, and as the Iranian Revolutionary Guard General said, they're going to get their sleeper cells in here, and they're going to be waiting for the opportunity to take action. And it doesn't always have to be something very big, but you saw what they tried to do with that power grid plant.
Yeah, certainly no time to relax, and folks can read more about that story on Newsmax.com right now.